Hey, Jeff here. So I thought I would do a quick entry into another contest. This is one that I meant to jump on weeks ago. And I even had notes started, I had thoughts planned, and then life got in the way and I forgot about it. And then I saw a reminder video just, what was it, yesterday, reminded me about the contest. So let's jump on this and get it done. So this is for TC over at TKR Video Central, and he does the Kirkman report, and he's been doing these things. So he's pushing to 100 subscribers. At the time he did the video in November, he was in the 60s. Now I believe he's in the 80. He's 90 actually as of today. So we got 10 to go. He's pushing to 100 before Christmas. So if you're not a subscriber, go check him out. He shows a smorgasbord of stuff, and interesting tidbits. Now he also does almost a lot of times does these daily videos. So last month or so, he was doing the Thanksgiving turkeys. It was like a daily little segment that he was doing. And now for the month of December, he's doing the Jingle Bell Jams, where he's going through briefly and looking at various Christmas songs, past and present, and just showing some information, some background. It's kind of like a little historical stuff. And even the Thanksgiving ones were cool. So what we've got going now is he set up a push to 100 Thanksgiving contest. Yes, we're past Thanksgiving, but it ends in December at Christmas. And like I said, so a lot of these are Thanksgiving themed and leans into Christmas a little bit too. So we got some questions as usual. So the first, and that when he refers to something as being a turkey, Thanksgiving, we're talking about something that is not usually favorably, it's kind of like you say your car is a lemon. So a turkey would be an album or music or something that is, most people don't appreciate it or whatever. So that's kind of the thought process that we're going with here. So number one, show an album you own that your friends think is a complete turkey. Now I could pick any album by this band. I just happened to grab this one because it was the best of. Anything pretty much by the Partridge Family. I am one of those weirdos, especially when it comes to being, pretty much a metalhead, who has the, weird fascination with some of the 70s bubblegum pop, especially the Partridge Family. And I think a lot of it came from the fact that I grew up watching the show. And I was a kid when the show was out, so these songs stuck with me. Then I kind of, decades go by, and I didn't really do a whole lot. But then somewhere in the past less than 20 years, somewhere in the past 15 years, I believe it was, they started reissuing all of their Partridge Family albums on CD, and I started buying them and listening to them. And I bought the actual all the volumes on DVD of the whole series, and my son and I, my late son and I used to watch them all the time. So, and he liked them, and can't say I've watched them much since he's gone, but anyway, yeah. So it kind of renewed my interest in that pop music of the 70s. So anyway, that's why I could have picked anything by them, but that's it. So show an album you think would be good to play during your Thanksgiving Day meal. I picked Philip Upchurch. This is actually one I showed a long time ago. I got this at the thrift store for $1. It's a double record set. The records were in pristine condition. I knew nothing about him. I simply bought it based on the fact that I noticed A, he's playing a cool guitar. B, there was no vocalist listed. Again, I knew nothing about him. I'm standing in Goodwill and looking at it, and I looked at it, and there's no vocalist listed. He's cool. It looks cool. He's got guitar. It's got some songs that are familiar. That's the reason I chose this album, because it's got songs like you've got Fire and Rain. I see fire and I seen rain. And You've Got a Friend, and Sweet Chariot. So it's got some songs on here that are, you would recognize. But yeah, it's guitar, jazz, and it just turned out to be a great album. And I bought two of his albums actually at the same time. So another one of those artists that I just took a chance on and found that I really liked. It's really cool guitar-driven jazz. A lot of the jazz I listen to tends to be, mostly saxophone. My wife was really big into saxophone. So obviously the Kenny G's, the Dave Causes, all of those guys. Richard Elliott, we've seen him in concert, and just lots of stuff like that. Spyro is fusion-y. It's got all kinds of stuff. But, of course, Jay Beckenstein is the saxophone player that kind of leads it all. So that all tends to be the case. The only real, I think, guitar jazz that I tend to have listened to mostly over the years are Rippingtons. So Russ Freeman and the Rippingtons, So love his stuff. Anyway, so yeah, they have another guitar jazz based stuff. It's just, really good. Show an album or artist that you first bought it thinking it would be a total turkey, but that you ended up loving. Herb Alpert. Now, everybody's got the stigma with Herb Alpert because everywhere you go, you got Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. That is the Herb Alpert that most people know. I saw this, knew nothing about it. Obviously, it's not Tijuana Brass. I assumed it's going to be like that, Tijuana Brass. If you look at he looks totally different. He's obvious. This is the cool look. This is, this is Don Johnson of jazz there. And this is, what was this, early 80s, 79, 80, 79. So I bought this anticipating that it was going to be similar to Tijuana Brass, but it was really cheap and in really, really good condition. Turns out, no, I know one of the major songs on here, and this is basically trumpet type bass jazz, and so it was smooth jazz. Anyway, great stuff. This would even be good to play on Thanksgiving. Any jazz, big background music. So yeah, I thought this might be cheesier than it was. I put it on and immediately said, hey, I know this song. Oh, that's who plays this. Oh, anyway, great stuff. All right, show album CD or 45 picture sleeve with some kind of food on it. Now this, unfortunately, the cover, I'm going to take it out of this cover. The cover on mine is very faded. So I am going to pop up a picture here at some point that's got a better version of this. And this is Sean Phillips. This is one of the ones I got in the big box of stuff from Steve at Value Vinyl recently. Didn't know a lot about him, and I popped it on and found out it was great. But in the background there at the table, you can see the food. They got drinks and everything. So it's kind of like it's a meat and cheese type platter. There's bread. So they're having a big meal. They all got stouts. They're drinking. Now, bonus points if the food is related to Thanksgiving, and this is totally TC's call. But here's the way I'm approaching this. They're drinking beer. A lot of people drink beer or some kind of alcohol on Thanksgiving. I would say meats, cheeses, platter like that would be something that you would serve at Thanksgiving. And here's the kicker, though. You've got an American Indian right here. What's more Thanksgiving than bringing in the American Indians? You got looks like an apple there. I don't know. Everything about this says, hey, these guys could be coming, having. To me, it almost feels like they're having a Thanksgiving meal. They just don't have the giant turkey, but I don't know. That could be a turkey there too. It's meat and cheese. It looks like. Anyway, I'll stretch it. If it goes for a bonus, if it doesn't, whatever. All right. He says, seeing as how Thanksgiving is associated with football, show your favorite sports-related album or song. Now, I'm not into sports. I'm not really into football. Now, I can watch football. I don't mind watching football. I don't turn on to watch football, but if I'm flipping channels, I don't even have TV. All I have is, some of the Hulu and stuff like that. But if I'm around football, in the old days, I've watched football. I can watch football. I'm not a big fan of baseball. I'm not a big fan of basketball, but I can watch football. And I'm at a restaurant or sports bar, I'm going to watch football. I don't follow football, don't know football. Anyway, all to say, I don't have a lot of sports-related stuff, but hey, look at this. How about this? Will this count? Huey Lewis and the News. Sports. This is one of my favorite Huey Lewis albums. Now, also on top of that, what do you got up here? On the TV screen. Football. Playing football. They're drinking beer. That's even Thanksgiving. Hey, Thanksgiving, they're having beers and watching football. This could be a Thanksgiving bar, right? And the album is called Sports. So that's going to be probably as close as I could get to having a sports-related album. Show an album or artist that you would invite over for Thanksgiving dinner. Now, my brain was racked for this. Of course, I guess everybody would assume, who knows me well enough, would assume that I'm going to go with Neil Morse. I talk about him so much, and I've been a big fan of his for like 20 years now. Yeah, it'd be great to have a meal with him and his family. That would be great. I also thought of some others. I'd love to sit down for a meal with like Alice Cooper. Be another one. Um, I would love to have sit down for a meal with like the late David Cassidy from the Partridge Family. There are just some people from, that are gone now that'd be like, wow, that would have been cool. But people who are alive and well, Neil Morris is somebody that's possibly meetable. So yeah, wouldn't mind having him over. That'd be kind of cool. All right. What is your all-time favorite Macy's Parade balloon? Now, this didn't take a whole lot of thinking about. I'm going to show a picture of it. And the bonus point, if you can get a picture, I'm going to insert a picture here because I didn't want to print it out. But basically, I grew up in the 70s and early 80s as a comic book nerd. Marvel Comics was my thing, and of course, so everybody, Spider-Man, everything. And in 1987 was the first appearance of a Spider-Man balloon at the Macy's Day Parade, and so that was just, to me, that was really cool. Anytime that you saw these superheroes break into major things, it was really cool. And what is a cherished tradition in your family's Thanksgiving? Now, this is two different ways to approach this. I mean, he kind of explained his tradition of being as a kid. And I do have favorite traditions of that point. We always had Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house. And of course, as most grandmothers do, they're big cooks. But some of the things that my grandmother did that were memorable to me the most, she always made her own homemade applesauce. And I loved applesauce. It was always real runny, unlike applesauce you get nowadays, which is really chunky. It was almost very liquefied. It was just very runny. Had cinnamon in it. It was really good. And then she would make the yeast rolls, But I just loved cutting the yeast roll, putting applesauce on the yeast roll, and eating it. That was just one of my favorite memories. And that was at every meal. It wasn't just Thanksgiving. We go to my grandmother's house for Mother's Day or whatever. Well, that was always at the park. Any meal we had at her house that was big tended to be Thanksgiving or Christmas. We always had the applesauce there for me. That was kind of my favorite thing. She also made an amazing Waldorf salad, which I only later in life realized that there were things in there that I don't like, but loved it as a kid. And that was always a favorite tradition. Never had it since being a kid and since she's been gone. Now, modern day, we don't have a lot of Thanksgiving traditions. We do some of the same things every time. The one thing we do is the way we do our sweet potatoes. And I don't know if it's a Southern thing. It's the way I grew up doing it. Not the way my wife did, but she has picked up the reins and does it every year too. And that's basically you mash the sweet potatoes and then you put marshmallows on top of them and bake them. And so that's been the way that we do it every year, and everywhere we go we make them and take them, because some people just throw them in there from a can. Some of them have like a glaze on top of them. They're just big potatoes. Some people mash them. They'll put pecans on top of them. We don't need the nut stuff, just marshmallows. And it's just it's not a sweet potato casserole, and it's not sweet potatoes. It's kind of like candied yams, but mushed up. Anyway, that's one of the things that we do every year, and the kids love it, and we love it, and I look forward to it. So, yeah, that would be sort of a tradition. Another tradition we do, and have done quite a few years, we tend to invite people over. We don't have... I have family close by, but I have a brother and a sister-in-law, and they're kind of, a few towns over. So we've gotten together, I think, one time for Thanksgiving, but there's not a whole lot of family like we used to have growing up where everybody's here. My cousins are scattered and everything, so we don't have a close there family. So we tend to invite somebody over that doesn't have somewhere to go for Thanksgiving. We're in a big military town. We have invited people over that were like single people from church. There's a couple at church that have, have no kids or whatever, and they just are there by themselves, and so we've invited them over a handful of years. So one of the traditions we try to invite people over that have no place to go. Had a friend of mine who went through a divorce, and so when Thanksgiving rolled around and he had no family, we invited him over. So and the same thing with Easter and stuff. We'll have people over at different times. So that's one of the traditions also. What is the first Christmas song that you play every year? Now, that would be this. And this is by request of the kids. We've been playing this album first. So what happens, we don't do this on Christmas Day, we don't have music, but when we set up the tree, we make cookies and we get all the stuff, and the kids come over or the kids are here, and we set up the tree and it's music and everything. And this is the first album they play that they request to play. Had it on CD back in the day, have it on vinyl now, so we played it, on record this year. And the first song on here is "Have Yourself a Merry Christmas." If you haven't heard it, it's really weird. It starts off slow with horns and it sounds horrible, and then they're like, "Hey, this is not Twisted Sister style," and then they kick into a heavy version. And so, yeah, this is the song album. And then, of course, you got "Oh Come All You Faithful," which is the "We're Not Going to Take It" with the Christmas lyrics. But this is the one. Then other things get mixed in there. Trans-Siberian Orchestra occasionally pops in. We've got the 12 Days of Christmas by Bob and Doug McKenzie that everybody wants to hear. So there are some favorites after we get done with this album that we want to do. Now, bonus point for singing it is "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight." Anyway, so yeah, it's just a traditional one. And they do a lot of the traditional ones on here, as well as some, other somewhat original takes on things. So, number 10 in this crazy year 2020, what are you most thankful for? That's a good question. So I guess one of the things is I was able to transition from working to working at home. I work on computers, so I work at a computer all day, so it wasn't hard to do that. So I've been thankful that nothing has changed job-wise, as some people have lost jobs and some places have gone down. So I'm very thankful for that. Being home, working allows me some extra free time because now there's no more jumping up every morning and taking a shower and eating something and getting ready and then driving to work and commuting to work and then finding something to eat for lunch at work, which means usually eating junk that you shouldn't be eating or taking stuff that you shouldn't take, and then driving home. You got to commute and you got to fight the traffic and you're wasting time doing all that. So I'm saving at least roughly an hour just in commute time, and then I'm saving time because you can get up a little later. You don't have to take a shower every day like I used to. You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to make sure your clothes are, your work clothes are clean, all this stuff. It saves a lot of time. I've been able to establish a morning walking plan with my wife and dog. That's been nice for the past few months, which gets me out of the house away from the computer to do a little exercise. So there's a lot of things there. I'm thankful that nobody I know personally has had a major issue with, this virus that's going on. A lot of people have had it, but a lot of people have had no symptoms or had minor symptoms, lost taste and smell for a short amount of time. Nobody I know has been, affected devastatingly from it. And nobody I know immediately in my immediate circles that I communicate with have ever had it. And I'm talking about people that I associate with on a regular basis physically. So it's kind of been not as effective to those around me in my personal circles. So yeah, I guess there's a lot to be thankful for. That's just the tip of the iceberg, I guess. There's so much we should be thankful for that we sometimes don't. All right, bonus question. If you can name the favorite Thanksgiving turkey featured by TC on his channel. Now, I can't say that I've watched every one of them, but I've watched a handful of them, and some of the ones that really struck me and have easy to bring back up into memory is he did one on this song called "I Want My Baby Back," and it was from the 1950s, I believe, and it's a really go back and look at it. His November 9th episode, it was a very eerie song about a teenage love, and the girl dies and the guy can't live without her, so he digs up her grave and climbs in with her. And he was even saying it's kind of a morbid song even for that time. So really that stuck with me because I'm like, I don't recall ever hearing anything like that, but weird. And then on the November 2nd, it was really caught my eye because it was a meal hack, and he showed some videos of this guy that used a record player. He was using the little suitcase of Victrola type record players, modified so he could put a plate on there and decorate plates. Kind of like we used to do as a kid when they had those spinning things and you spray the paint on it and it makes all the cool designs. The plate, you do it and then you can make chocolate and stuff and it swirls out and then you can use a brush. And anyway, it was just a really neat way to do little foodie designs and things on the plate. And anyway, that was really neat because it was a neat little meal hack on how to use a record player to decorate plates for food. Yeah, so that's it. I'm submitting this as my official entry. TC, here you go. Let's get you all the way to 100. Come on, people. If you haven't subscribed, all we need is 10 more. Thanks a lot. Sorry for rambling so long. See you later. Rock on.